This might sound a little bit dramatic, but if you ask any Chicago Cubs fan, they might say that they have the most confusing franchise in all of Major League Baseball because they're doing big things like trading for superstar outfielder Kyle Tucker. But fast forward to today, it seems like the franchise is more interested in disrespecting Kyle Tucker instead of giving him an extension. It makes no sense, but it's happening. So we'll talk about that later on in today's MLB recap. And by the way, we have smaller stories on Pete Alonso. There is an update with him maybe going back to the Mets. The Orioles, they picked up another 34, 35-year-old pitcher, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr., he's a very rich man, but it's not an extension. Before we start the recap, I just want to give a shout out to all of you guys. You've been supporting Recap like crazy to begin 2025. We've gained 200 subscribers every single recap. Let's keep up that trend. Hit that subscribe button. Also, don't forget that Recap is brought to you by SeatGeek and Underdog Fantasy. Use code Fuzzy. Marlins fans, I don't even know what to say anymore. We're going to talk about a few smaller stories before we get into the Kyle Tucker disrespect from the Cubs. But Braxton Garrett is going to be out for all of 2025. The Marlins fan base has been getting haymaker left and right by the baseball gods. The baseball gods have gone full prime Mike Tyson on the Marlins in terms of their starting pitching options. Sandy Alcantara, Yuri Perez, the third overall pick from 2020, Max Meyer, they've all been hit with severe arm injuries. And then you have Edward Cabrera, the MLB The Show legend, who missed a lot of 2024 with arm issues. They called it dead arm. Then he had a shoulder impingement. Now Braxton Garrett is out for 2025. It can't get much worse. The entire rotation is basically on the shelf. From one NL East team to another, I guess the Mets and Pete Alonso might be coming to an agreement here soon over the next few days, and it's not going to be the deal that Pete Alonso and Scott Boras set out for when they first started free agency. They wanted a Prince Fielder type deal where it's like 6-7 years, a couple $100 million. It seems like Pete Alonso and his team are working with the Mets to construct a short-term deal. Now, again, don't expect to see $200 million or anything like that. My best guess is that Pete Alonso is going to get 3 years with a bunch of opt-outs, similar to the Cody Bellinger deal where, hey, if Cody pops off, he can opt out. Or if he doesn't, he can just accept the high AAV. It's probably going to be 3 years, $90 to $100 million. That's my best guess. But again, I have zero sources. I'm a college dropout who's just in his room recording baseball videos. I have no sources. These are just the trusted sources on the internet, and a lot of guys are saying the same thing. So once they're all kind of in sync in terms of reports, you can kind of just go with it. I'm shocked that the Orioles did not sign Justin Verlander, considering how many old dudes they've been signing as of late. Charlie Morton's going to be 42 years old, something like that. Tomoyuki Sagano is going to be 35, 36 years old. Andrew Kittredge is their brand new free agent pickup. He's 34 years old right now, but he's going to be 35 years old when the season starts. He just got $10 million. Now, he is coming off a 70-plus inning campaign with the Cardinals. He was really, really good. He came to St. Louis in that Richie Palacios trade. Kittredge put up a 2.8 ERA with a big bump in the strikeout percentage last year, so pretty good. And if you take a look at what he's done since 2020, a 2.5 ERA over those 4.5 seasons, he's been rock solid for quite some time. Teams like to have trios when it comes to the 7th, 8th, and 9th innings. Now the Orioles can go Andrew Kittredge, Yennier Cano, and Felix Bautista, praying that Felix Bautista is 100% ready. That is a nasty trio for the final 3 innings. So with the additions of Tyler O'Neill, Gary Sanchez, Charlie Morton, Andrew Kittredge, and Tomoyuki Sagano, I want you guys to give me a letter grade for the Orioles in the comments down below. Do you think that they've added way too many pieces for the sake of saving money and trying to be cost effective, or do you think that they should have spent a lot more money on maybe a Corbin Burns or just 1 or 2 players? Let me know those grades in the comments down below, because it's time to talk about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and how it kind of relates to Kyle Tucker being disrespected. Yesterday, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. made some history. He became the 3rd largest contract in arbitration history. He's going to be making $28.5 million in 2025, which is the 3rd highest ever paid to a guy in arbitration, just behind Ohtani and Soto, who both just got $700 million. So Vladimir Guerrero Jr., he's going to be ultra rich whether he gets an extension or becomes a free agent. But I bring up Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because, yes, he just got paid $28.5 million, but he was disrespected when he first came up as a rookie, just like Kyle Tucker is being disrespected right now with the Cubs and having his money messed with. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. should have been a free agent this year with Juan Soto and Max Fried, but because the Jays held him down for like 3 weeks when he came up as a rookie and they manipulated his service time, they got 1 extra year, and that's this year. He still makes $28.5 million. That's a ton of money, but he could have gotten a lot more considering his age. The season that he just had, I mean, the dude is historically good in terms of how old he is, and $28.5 million, yeah, it's cool, but maybe he could have been making $35 million for the next 12, 13 years if he was actually a free agent. Kyle Tucker, he's having his money messed with as well. The Cubs aren't even strangers to this because we all know that they manipulated Kris Bryant's service time to the nth degree. He was held down for 7 games to work on defense. It was the same excuse for the Jays and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Apparently, Kris Bryant fixed his defense after a couple days in the minor league system, and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. fixed his defense in 2 or 3 weeks. Makes sense. The Cubs disrespected Kris Bryant, and now it seems like they're on the same track to disrespect another superstar, Kyle Tucker, who is reportedly wanting $17.5 million in arbitration, and he's well worth that in my opinion. The Cubs, they want him at $15 million. That's it. I know when I say that's it, it sounds extremely out of touch, but that's not a lot of money for Kyle Tucker's talent. The Cubs' most valuable player in terms of WAR was Dansby Swanson. He put up a 4 WAR over 150 games. Now, real quick, let me explain how arbitration works because it's not like the Cubs intentionally tried to disrespect Kyle Tucker, but in short, that's really what they ended up doing. So let me try and explain how arbitration works before we talk about how it could be disrespectful. So it's not like the Cubs knew that Kyle Tucker was going to be valuing himself at $17.5 million. Tucker's camp came up with that number after assessing his stats and production over the last few years. The Cubs did the exact same thing, but their number ended up at $15 million. So essentially, they're flying blind and trying to come up with a respectable number. Tucker's is a whole lot higher. The Cubs is at $15 million. So they're actually meeting right now. They've been unveiled, but they don't agree in terms of the Cubs. The Cubs want to take him to arbitration according to the reports, but that's not entirely true. They can still settle it before going to arbitration. And if they do go to arbitration, that's where things get personal. You have to go back to Corbin Burnes and his time with the Brewers. The Brewers flat out said during arbitration that Corbin Burnes, their ace and Cy Young winner, was the reason why they missed the playoffs a few years ago. They blamed his bad second half. He had like a 3.6 ERA in the second half, but they blamed him. The third-party arbiter agreed with what the Brewers were saying, and Corbin Burnes lost that case. So he got a decrease in salary according to what he thought he was worth, which again makes it very personal. So in short, the Cubs have their number, Kyle Tucker has his. They do not match right now. So either the Cubs say, hey, you know what, we just traded for you, we believe in you, want to give you an extension and build that foundation of a good relationship, we'll cave and give you that $17.5 million, or no, we got to try and save that $2 million and we're going to take you to arbitration and somehow create a negative perception about how Kyle Tucker is not worth $17.5 million, even though we just gave up a ton to acquire Kyle Tucker. Doesn't make any sense, but they might try it. They disrespected not only Kris Bryant when they manipulated his service time, but the integrity of the game, and really, they just called their fans stupid, saying, hey, Kris Bryant's not ready, he has to work on his defense. Wait, it's been 7 days. He can come up. It's done. He's ready. Jed Hoyer, the GM of the Cubs, better have some tricks up his sleeves to get an extension going, just like they did with Ian Happ a few years ago, because if they don't get this done and they go to arbitration, Cubs fans, they're going to be punching air. The same thing is happening with Nathaniel Low of the Nationals. He wants $11.1 million. The Nationals want $10.3. And again, just like Kyle Tucker, the Nationals just traded for this guy and gave up a pretty good pitcher in Robert Garcia. I mean, what are they doing? Now, in terms of Nathaniel Low and Kyle Tucker getting what they want, there is some hope because Vladimir Guerrero Jr. last year won $19.9 million in arbitration after the Jays. They filed at $18.05 million. So again, it's just not smart at all to disrespect your star players and say, hey, you're the reason why this and that happened and you weren't good at this or you were underperforming at that, and the players, it just seems like they leave if they go to arbitration because it's a slap in the face. Speaking of a slap in the face, for the first time in over a decade, since 2014, the Padres did not agree on a number with one of their players going through arbitration, and of all players, it's Michael King, who they got in the Juan Soto trade, who just had an insane playoffs. This is a big reason why the Padres have been so quiet over the offseason because it just seems like the numbers, they're not matching the dream of Peter Seidler. Michael King wants $8.8 million. The Padres offered 7.3-ish. That's a huge difference. And maybe the worst case I've seen so far, Jiren Duran might be going to arbitration with the Red Sox over $500 grand. I know that's a lot of money to people like you and I, but to a guy who just had an MVP type season, Jarren Duran, a historic speed, defense, extra base hit season, he wants $4 million. The Red Sox filed at 3.5. If they can't agree on the $4 million and give Jarren what he's rightfully owed after the season that he just put up, just throw it all away. And if you ever bootlick for owners ever again, like Juan Soto got too much money, he's overpaid, good. I want every player to be overpaid if the owners are penny pinching like this. So that does it. I want you all to let me know in the comments, am I being dramatic? Am I overreacting to this Kyle Tucker disrespect? It's just the Cubs are so confusing. They do a lot of good things at the same time. It just seems like they take 5 steps forward, 3 steps back, and then another 2 steps back before taking 5 steps forward again. It seems like they're just always in the same place as before. Let me know in the comments, am I being dramatic or not?